March 8 reading. Mathetes. The Epistle to Diognetus, chapters 1 through 2. The occasion of the Epistle. Since I see thee, most excellent Diognetus, exceedingly desirous to learn the mode of worshipping God prevalent among the Christians, and inquiring very carefully and earnestly concerning them, what God they trust in, and what form of religion they observe, so as all to look down upon the world itself, and despise death, while they neither esteem those to be gods that are reckoned such by the Greeks, nor hold to the superstition of the Jews, and what is the affection which they cherish among themselves, and why, in fine, this new kind or practice, of piety, has only now entered into the world, and not long ago. I cordially welcome this thy desire, and I implore God, who enables us both to speak and to hear, to grant to me so to speak, that, above all, I may hear you have been edified, and to you so to hear, that I who speak may have no cause of regret for having done so. Abandoning prejudice for truth. Come, then, after you have freed yourself from all prejudices possessing your mind, and laid aside what you have been accustomed to, as something apt to deceive you, and being made, as if from the beginning, a new man, inasmuch as, according to your own confession, you are to be the hearer of a new system of doctrine. Come and contemplate, not with your eyes only, but with your understanding, the substance and the form of those whom ye declare and deem to be gods. The materials of pagan idols. Is not one of them a stone similar to that on which we tread? Is not a second brass, in no way superior to those vessels which are constructed for our ordinary use? Is not a third wood, and that already rotten? Is not a fourth silver, which needs a man to watch it, lest it be stolen? Is not a fifth iron, consumed by rust? Is not a sixth earthenware, in no degree more valuable than that which is formed for the humblest purposes? Are not all these of corruptible matter? Are they not fabricated by means of iron and fire? Did not the sculptor fashion one of them, the brazier a second, the silversmith a third, and the potter a fourth? Was not every one of them, before they were formed by the arts of these workmen, into the shape of these gods, each in its own way subject to change? Would not those things which are now vessels, formed of the same materials, become like to such, if they met with the same artificers? Might not these, which are now worshipped by you, again be made by men vessels similar to others? The powerlessness of pagan gods, are they not all deaf? Are they not blind? Are they not without life? Are they not destitute of feeling? Are they not incapable of motion? Are they not all liable to rot? Are they not all corruptible? These things ye call gods, these ye serve, these ye worship, and ye become altogether like to them. For this reason, ye hate the Christians, because they do not deem these to be gods. But do not ye yourselves, who now think and suppose such to be gods, much more cast contempt upon them than they, the Christians, do? Contradictions in pagan worship. Do ye not much more mock and insult them, when ye worship those that are made of stone and earthenware, without appointing any persons to guard them, but those made of silver and gold ye shut up by night, and appoint watchers to look after them by day, lest they be stolen? And by those gifts which ye mean to present to them, do ye not, if they are possessed of sense, rather punish, than honor, them? But if, on the other hand, they are destitute of sense, ye convict them of this fact, while ye worship them with blood and the smoke of sacrifices. Would you accept this treatment? Let any one of you suffer such indignities. Let any one of you endure to have such things done to himself. But not a single human being will, unless compelled to it, endure such treatment, since he is endowed with sense and reason. A stone, however, readily bears it, seeing it is insensible. Certainly you do not show, by your conduct, that he, your God, is possessed of sense. Why Christians reject idolatry. And as to the fact that Christians are not accustomed to serve such gods, I might easily find many other things to say, but if even what has been said does not seem to any one sufficient, I deem it idle to say anything further. Augustine. Confessions, Book V, Chapter 8. He sets out for Rome, his mother in vain lamenting it. Thou dealst with me, therefore, that I should be persuaded to go to Rome, and teach there rather what I was then teaching at Carthage. And how I was persuaded to do this, I will not fail to confess unto thee, for in this also the profoundest workings of thy wisdom, and thy ever-present mercy to usward, must be pondered and avowed. It was not my desire to go to Rome because greater advantages and dignities were guaranteed me by the friends who persuaded me into this, although even at this period I was influenced by these considerations, but my principal and almost sole motive was, that I had been informed that the youth studied more quietly there, and were kept under by the control of more rigid discipline, so that they did not capriciously and impudently rush into the school of a master not their own, into whose presence they were forbidden to enter unless with his consent. At Carthage, on the contrary, there was amongst the scholars a shameful and intemperate license. They burst in rudely, and, with almost furious gesticulations, interrupt the system which any one may have instituted for the good of his pupils. Many outrages they perpetrate with astounding phlegm, which would be punishable by law were they not sustained by custom, that custom showing them to be the more worthless, in that they now do, as according to law, what by thy unchangeable law will never be lawful. And they fancy they do it with impunity, whereas the very blindness whereby they do it is their punishment, and they suffer far greater things than they do. The manners, then, which as a student I would not adopt, I was compelled as a teacher to submit to from others, and so I was too glad to go where all who knew anything about it assured me that similar things were not done. God's hidden guidance. But thou, my refuge and my portion in the land of the living, didst while at Carthage goad me, so that I might thereby be withdrawn from it, and exchange my worldly habitation for the preservation of my soul, whilst at Rome thou didst offer me enticements by which to attract me there, by men enchanted with this dying life, the one doing insane actions, and the other making assurances of vain things, and, in order to correct my footsteps, didst secretly employ therein my perversity. For both they who disturbed my tranquillity were blinded by a shameful madness, and they who allured me elsewhere smacked of the earth. And I, who hated real misery here, sought fictitious happiness there. A mother's tears and a son's deception. But the cause of my going thence and going thither, thou, O God, knewest, yet revealedst it not, either to me or to my mother, who grievously lamented my journey, and went with me as far as the sea. But I deceived her, when she violently restrained me either that she might retain me or accompany me, and I pretended that I had a friend whom I could not quit until he had a favorable wind to set sail. And I lied to my mother, and such a mother, and got away. For this also thou hast in mercy pardoned me, saving me, thus replete with abominable pollutions, from the waters of the sea, for the water of thy grace, whereby, when I was purified, the fountains of my mother's eyes should be dried, from which for me she day by day watered the ground under her face. And yet, refusing to go back without me, it was with difficulty I persuaded her to remain that night in a place quite close to our ship, where there was an oratory in memory of the blessed Cyprian. That night I secretly left, but she was not backward in prayers and weeping. A prayer answered in a deeper way. And what was it, O Lord, that she, with such an abundance of tears, was asking of thee, but that thou wouldest not permit me to sail? But thou, mysteriously counseling and hearing the real purpose of her desire, granted not what she then asked, in order to make me what she was ever asking. The wind blew and filled our sails, and withdrew the shore from our sight, and she, wild with grief, was there on the morrow, and filled thine ears with complaints and groans, which thou didst disregard, whilst, by the means of my longings, thou wert hastening me on to the cessation of all longing, and the gross part of her love to me was whipped out by the just lash of sorrow. But, like all mothers, though even more than others, she loved to have me with her, and knew not what joy thou wert preparing for her by my absence. Being ignorant of this, she did weep and mourn, and in her agony was seen the inheritance of Eve, seeking in sorrow what in sorrow she had brought forth. And yet, after accusing my perfidy and cruelty, she again continued her intercessions for me with thee, returned to her accustomed place, and I to Rome. Thomas Aquinas. Summa Theologica, Part 1, Question 35, Article 2. Whether the name image is proper to the Son? Objection. It seems that the name image is not proper to the Son, for Damascene says that the Holy Ghost is the image of the Son. Therefore, image does not belong to the Son alone. Responsio. It must be said that the name image is proper to the Son. In divine matters, image signifies a relation to its principle, implying a distinction of persons. The Son proceeds as the Word, which implies likeness and origin, thus, he is properly called the image of the Father. While the Holy Ghost proceeds from the Father and the Son, his procession is by way of love, not as an image reflecting the principle.